I want to delve a little bit deeper, into the creative power of words, because a lesson that struck me in a particularly deep and painful way as I was reflecting on it this Shabbat. And this teaching is from the Ohr HaChaim, and it's a teaching that, I believe I think I revisit this almost every single year when we reach this portion because it's so dear to my heart, which makes it somewhat ironic and humbling that I personally failed in living up to this very teaching just this past week in a way that I'll share with you in just a moment. The Ohr HaChaim explains that Moshe's primary mistake in was in three crucial words. Who knows where I'm going with this? In Bamidbar chapter 20, verse 10. And Moshe and Aaron gathered the assembly together before the rock, and he said to them, "Hear now, you rebels, shall we bring forth water for you out of this rock?" According to the Ohr HaChaim, Hashem's grievance was that Moshe called the Jewish people Hamorim, Morim, rebels. In that moment, he conflated their behavior with their very essence, something I've learned even more so as a father never to do. Never say bad girl. Say, you are a better girl than that. You're a wonderful girl that's acting in such a way. That's just like 101, right? So the Ohr HaChaim teaches that if Moshe had said something instead, like, he didn't say this, but I'm saying this, like, listen now, O nation, you are acting rebelliously before Hashem. It would have been acceptable, even potentially empowering, making a distinction between them and their behavior. Critiquing behavior is one thing, but labeling the people themselves as rebels is quite another. By calling the nation rebels, Moshe delivered words that were an affront, not only to the people, but also to Hashem, who loves his children, and he sees the depths of our hearts. He sees our goodness. He sees the beauty of the essence of his people, a vision clearer and purer than even the eyes of Moshe Rabbeinu. As holy and lofty and radiant as his eyes were, he was still flesh and blood. He couldn't consistently always maintain that absolute perfection of clarity, and he fell at that moment. So let me just open a personal parenthesis here for a moment. I'm not sure how many of you have been following the situation, but recently there's been a painful and unpleasant controversy in Israel involving a group of young Jews known as the Hilltop Youth. Have you been following this? Raise your hand if you've been following the stories in the Israeli media. Okay, a lot of you have been, most of you have been following this. Anyways, they've been accused of vandalism, violence against the IDF, and the destruction of critical security equipment. And, just reading all the articles and all the condemnations of them, I'm still struggling. Like, okay, we were about to wipe out Agag and redemption, and now we're back to the internal squabbling and finger pointing and baseless hatred. I found it it just got me down. It got me down. Like I said, they were accused of these things, destroying millions of shekels of security equipment. Now, I don't want to dive into the details of all that right now. That's not the point I'm trying to make here, though I'd be more than happy to explore it with anyone at another time. The reason I bring it up, and I want to stay focused here, is because of my personal experiences and relationships with hundreds of these Hilltop youth that have come through our farm, and I got to see them and see the beauty and the light coming from their souls. I strongly felt there was some sort of media hit job that was going on. Like, this was being orchestrated. Like, okay, all of a sudden we're talking about Abraham Accords, the two-state solution. They need to create a rift between Judea and Samaria and the country. And how do they do that? Well, the army is sort of beyond reproach, and to have these kids that are fighting the army. I don't know what it is, but it seemed like everyone was piling on, using these relatively defenseless kids who are, and I say defenseless because they're disconnected from the internet, from smartphones, from Facebook, from Twitter. They're just using them as convenient punching bags to hate on. And sort of that Papa Bear in me got a little too emotional, I think, in retrospect. And I ended up writing what I thought at the time was a beautiful, positive, and inspired article in their defense. Did any of you read it? I think I really was one of the lone voices on the matter, and it spread pretty quickly and it went pretty viral. Many people loved it. They widely, they were, who reached out to me? Jonathan Pollard, a real hero of Israel, prisoner of Zion. He even told me that he was super proud of me. Many reached out and said how grateful they were that I was able to articulate such an important message of positivity while everyone was piling on. And there were also those that pushed back respectfully and thoughtfully, which I always appreciate. But what I didn't expect was, yes, it was a select few, maybe a little bit more than a few, but not that much, the level of hatred and anger and sheer rage that my article unleashed within them. People very close to me responded with deeply painful personal attacks that really left me reeling. By the way, if you want to read it, it's in the JNS website, jns.org. They're a great news provider. It's called In Defense of Hilltop Youth. In Defense of the Hilltop Youth. Anyways, there are some people who seem to thrive on stirring up controversy and provoking strong reactions. Not me. I'm not. Maybe at one point in time I was into that a little bit. I don't think so, but definitely not now. I do not enjoy sowing division or conflict, and knowing that such rage was caused by my words and directed at me personally was really unsettling. So I took it as an opportunity to look inward. And when I prayerfully revisited my article, I think I was able to identify the very individual sentences that may have triggered such a deep anger and backlash and reaction that really, on some level, I deserved. And I'm grateful it happened because it helped open my eyes to shortcomings in my character, I think, at least at that moment in time. So again, without getting into the merits of the sentiments I was making, here are the words. I didn't know exactly where to start, so I'll just start where I'm starting, right? And yet, rather than thanking them, meaning rather than thanking the Hilltop Youth, or at the very least giving them the benefit of the doubt, they're maligned and castigated. Politicians, journalists, and even fellow Jews are all too eager, sometimes almost gleeful, to slander these young people, to paint them as the problem, to throw them under the bus. Sometimes it seems to prove their own moral virtue. It's a grotesque theater. Look at us, they seem to say. We condemn our own. We're the good Jews. We're not like them. How convenient. How cowardly. Okay, so I was feeling emotional. And if you see it within the context of the whole article, it's like just a few sentences. Here I'm just picking out the worst thing that I've done and laying it right out there. But did you see that? Do you see what I did there? I cast a shadow of doubt on the fundamental motivations and even the character of those criticizing these youths. I implied that they were gleeful, that they were virtue signaling, that they were cowardly. I was so filled with righteous indignation over what I felt was the unfair vilification of these young, sweet, beautiful, idealistic kids that I fell into the very trap that I was condemning. Right? I vilified those who I perceived as premeditatedly and maliciously vilifying these kids. Right? You see that there. In retrospect, I could have said something like this instead. I could have said, politicians, journalists, and even fellow Jews sometimes speak out strongly against them. Not out of malice, but most likely because they deeply care about Jewish values and ethical conduct and the image of our people. Many genuinely fear that certain actions might stray from the Torah's path or harm the broader community. Right? I think, if I had done that, whether these people were really, that was their motivation or not, by saying that, it gives them something to hold on to. It's like offering them a pathway to align themselves with a more positive and loving narrative to hold on to. They say, yes, that's me, instead of what I said, which may have actually been what their motivation was. Maybe yes, maybe no. But instead, I was a hypocrite, calling on others to be charitable and give the benefit of the doubt to these Hilltop youth in a way that I myself was not to them. And it was this teaching from the Ohr HaChaim about the true nature of Moshe Rabbeinu's error that brought this realization crashing down on me.